Springs fertility clinic bombing. And you can see just how much mostly external damage was done to these buildings. The FBI still hasn't actually said what explosives were used, just that it was chemical based. And the culprit of this is deceased. His name was Guy Edward Barkis. He was 29 years old, and he was from 29 Palms, California. And he held what they call antinatalist views, that this fertility clinic, which helped women to bear children, was essentially contrary to his own life. And so he died right here, actually blowing up his Ford Fusion with weapons. And then you can see the damage to the building here. And the blast from this broke windows for blocks around. And then we're right next to the Desert Regional Medical Center. So there's a hospital right across the street here, and you can see this is all fenced off. And the operators of this clinic have vowed to rebuild. They even offered to pay for the bomber's funeral expenses. But what was kind of interesting about the story, I thought, was that he apparently attempted to live stream this, which is kind of like becoming part and parcel of people's, domestic extremism, violence, right? The ability to, on a live stream basis, show the carnage you're creating. They have not released what chemicals were used as part of the bombing. And I was just checking the FBI statement to see if that had been done, which was about 8 days ago. But you can see that there's no major structural damage to these buildings. It's windows, it's the interior a little bit, but the blast itself must have been relatively small. There's not even a lot of damage to the pavement here. It is pretty much just the exterior of this building. And I figured this was kind of an interesting story. It'll probably go in my next piece about the Coachella Valley. I like to take a long view of things, not necessarily a short one. So it took me a little time to get out here to see what this is like. I was just at the liquor store next door, and the shop owner has cleaned it up entirely. But the sort of extremist philosophy this guy had was kind of unusual. Not exactly, I would say. This is not religious-based terrorism. This is somebody who's just mad at the world and is latching on to anything. And they said he had bipolar disorder. So this is the location, and I am wearing a press pass, but you can see on the front here that there's some messages here. And apparently they even managed to save all of the embryos that were inside of this. And see, it's been red tagged. The building is not occupiable. And you can see, mostly it was just the force of the blast. There's no sign of any fire or explosion or anything. You can see some of the debris here. And thankfully, only the bomber died. Other people were injured. I presume they were taken across the street here to Desert Regional Medical Center. And you can see the power is off to this, I imagine. But there's no signs of large fireball or anything. Just, blast impact. The classic theory of criminology, right, is that people commit crimes, they think they can get away with. Usually is your average criminal norm. And then you have people, right, who are ideologically motivated. Here we're really talking about terrorism. This is domestic terrorism that has happened here. And it's really interesting. The owners, are, at least seemingly Muslim, and they have, or at least Arab American, and have, rather graciously decided that they don't want to condemn this person unduly. I think they find that he's a troubled individual. And they even vowed to pay for his funeral expenses and to rebuild this clinic better than it was ever before. This building actually does not need to be demolished or anything like that. It's simply this exterior damage. And considering at least how quickly the liquor store next door was able to replace its stock in its windows and get back into business, I imagine that most of the other windows that were blasted out here in Palm Springs have been replaced. But I mean, you can just kind of get an idea of what the explosive force of this was like. Obviously, it was enough to kill him, but it was not enough to cause any other major fatalities. So I think he kind of screwed it up. I think it had obviously quite a significant blast power, but it wasn't destructive enough to even severely, damage this building as far as its explosive force. So I'm sure the FBI is looking at how he managed to execute this, how he managed to get those chemicals. And you can see just a little bit more that there's more damage back here on the exterior building. But this apparently is one of the largest bombings in recent memory as far as the West Coast. Another bombing, right, that's been highly studied, at least here in Southern California, was the 1910 bombing of the Los Angeles Times. And I went on a tour of that with Esoteric Tours a while back to discuss the kind of, radical unionism that went into essentially a nationwide bombing campaign in 1910. And you kind of, get an idea, right, for what the conditions are that are needed to create this. I don't know, there's a guy in Tesla, he's looking at me, but I think just like, what the hell? I don't know if I get an interview out of it. I do have my press pass on. And of course we're in a public space, but I just wanted to show people what was going on here. And you can see the hospital across the street. But I don't think I'm gonna hang out here too long. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody's pain. There is a legitimate journalism purpose to seeing, this first person so that I can effectively write about it and write about kind of the extremism that we have in our society that motivates something like this to happen. You see a little bit more just kind of the damage back here. The windows are still out. It looks like it's secondary building. Maybe the front was kind of the office space and the back was kind of maybe, patient rooms or patient offices. But that is it. And I hope everybody's having a good Friday. This is your news update. Clouds are kind of coming in over the mountain there. This is in fact a quite busy street. And let's look and see if there's any signs here to exactly where he's parked. Not really. I mean, I guess this is it, right? Because the rest of the street is pretty fresh. So he must have parked somewhere close to up front of this before he did that. And they said he was attempting the live stream. But I guess he's not a successful streamer per se, especially since he was the only casualty of his attack. It's not really clear, right, if his goal was to kill people or was simply to attack this clinic here, and you can just get another perspective there. But this is where we're at. And this is over at the liquor store next door. And it's been entirely repaired. The guy said they replaced a bunch of stock pretty quick. Matter of a couple weeks. See kind of a parking area over here. They have some dumpsters to remove debris from inside. So I think they're going to get started on fixing this up. Probably a couple months at least, so that would be open again. And all the embryos are being stored across the street. How you doing? It's crazy.
Huh?
It's crazy what happened here.
Oh, it is. Do you do the investigations here?
Journalist.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Are any of these guys around? Or?
I have not seen anybody else. I saw one person kind of drive by and look at me like, what am I doing? But other than that...
Oh, okay. Yeah, because usually they're here still at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, floodlights going.
I was wondering about that a little bit.
I found a couple pieces by my house over here, so I was going to bring it to it.
Yeah.
So they said whatever we find, so it looks like it's from the car.
Yeah, that's what they said. I was reading up on it just now because I planned to write about it, that bits of the car got blown up.
Yeah,
but
man. And I live right by the Denny's, across from the Denny's.
Yeah.
And I found a couple chunks.
Do you want to tell people about it?
Huh?
I'm live on YouTube actually talking to my audience. They always love to hear from people what things were like.
I'll come back in my car.
Yeah.
Okay.
You stay safe, my friend.
Well,
Yeah. I'm Zach.
Robert.
Nice to meet you, Robert. So this guy's saying that when it went off, that the pieces from the Ford Fusion here went, I mean, pretty far up into the air. It must have gone to travel.
Yeah, he went from one end to the
Yeah.
parking lot to the other.
Mhm.
To the other side. And way out on the street.
Yeah,
So I think it's pretty far out there himself. So.
kind of a stroke of luck.
Yeah. What'd you say?
You have a safe ride. So, he did not want to be interviewed. I respect his wish to not be interviewed. You can see actually they have a police. They're guarding the site, of course, from vandalism. And you see an Ocotillo cactus here. But whatever was used, it was not as an effective destruction attempt so much as it was, I mean, basically a suicide with essentially destructive intent. So I think that'll do it. Nobody else has any questions. You can see San Jacinto here, the clouds, the mountains. It's a beautiful place here in Palm Springs. And everybody have a good weekend.